I devised a master plan. Seniors ditched, group chaos ensued. I canceled a project, then revealed only they had to face the music. A group of seniors spends the entire year undermining their classmates, so I, the teacher, disrupt their final semester. This is my first post here, and for reasons that will become clear shortly, this channel resonates with the depths of my being. It is also quite lengthy since I want you to revel in my retaliation. The specific nature of this revenge stems from the fact that everything that transpires is the outcome of a domino effect that leaves destruction in its path. Dedication. This narrative is dedicated to anyone who has ever been wronged in a group project, and I sincerely hope you find it enjoyable. Some details are intentionally vague, for obvious reasons, and I wish to avoid legal complications. Note: proceed to the setup if you are in urgent need of a swift dose of justice. My background, not essential, but it will provide context for my reasoning. I have been teaching for many years, but it's vital to understand that during my first year, I was publicly criticized by a privileged group of entitled parents and their children. Not a week passed without someone either attempting to have me removed, undermining my authority, or simply demeaning me. The verbal and emotional abuse was so severe that I nearly resigned halfway through the first semester. This occurred at a school in a challenging area, where I was frequently accused of racism for asking students to stop talking, criticized for giving failing grades due to incomplete work, and even enforcing rules in the student-parent handbook put me under scrutiny. My principal reprimanded me for being a negative influence on the school and insisted that I needed to overlook more rules because he was weary of parents' complaints. Parents would show up unexpectedly to observe my classes, only to tell me I was a terrible educator and a horrible person. I have numerous horror stories from that school, but the point is that this experience shaped the type of teacher I aim to be in future positions. I needed to become the kind of teacher who was untouchable, allowing me to focus on the primary job: teaching students. My subsequent school was located in a reasonably affluent area. It was not unusual for me to discover that my students' parents were millionaires, bringing a different set of challenges. However, my new principal was incredibly supportive of me as long as I adhered strictly to the school's handbook, as this aligned with the school's philosophy and protected me by law. We frequently had parents filing frivolous lawsuits. This institution had learned long ago that yielding to parental demands invited trouble and attracted other sharks. My first year in this new environment was successful for several reasons, notably because the school's culture was easy to navigate. By planning ahead, I managed to preemptively address 99% of the negative parent interactions. When a parent did attempt to confront me during conferences, I countered so effectively that I developed a reputation among the students and parents as someone who could not be intimidated. Every action I took was in accordance with school rules, and any attempt to undermine me was dismissed by my principal, who regularly stated, "Mr. Fighter Jet is following school policy, so I'm afraid the ultimate decision rests with him." Truly, I had some parents in tears because their child could no longer earn an A in my class. I was not the teacher who aimed to destroy students. I simply wanted them to be responsible, which sometimes meant allowing them to fail. Consequently, my job became much more enjoyable, as instead of waiting to be ambushed by parents, I focused on creating an engaging class for my students while ensuring they learned valuable material. I established solid classroom rules that left little room for debate, and I consistently adapted them each year to make it more difficult for students or their parents to disrupt my day. I have many such stories, but this particular one stands out as a favorite. The backstory: in the year this incident occurred, I taught a high school class with students in grades 9-12, ages 14 to 18 for my international readers. My class was not required for graduation, but it did count as a core requirement. One of my initial rules for the year was, I never want to hear the question, "When will we ever need this?" since you chose to sign up for this class. My approach to structuring the class centered on encouraging students to take responsibility for their actions. My curriculum was designed to cater to everyone's interests. If students put in an honest effort, they were guaranteed a C. If they worked diligently, they could achieve a B or an A. I dedicated myself to helping every student with reasonable requests. For instance, one student worked hard on an assignment and said, I think I understand it now, but I can't submit it on time, I responded. Then submit it tomorrow for full credit. That's how hard work pays off. Other than a few hard deadlines, I would do whatever necessary to ensure students grasped the material. Were you to act irresponsibly in my class, I had developed methods to navigate the feeble excuses you offered your parents in defense of your poor performance. While it may sound heartless, I was the teacher who would remain for 90 minutes after school to assist you in catching up, help fix projects for other classes, or lend an ear when you needed to vent about personal issues, like your parents' divorce. If I caught you fooling around in class instead of working, my rule was that at least 70% of class time was intended for homework, quizzes, etc. I would issue a couple of warnings, email your parents, and then observe whether they cared at all. If they showed no concern, I would allow you to dig your hole deeper until you were overwhelmed. And then I would toss you a lifeline instead. You could still climb out if you tried, but many students would just complain until that hole collapsed on them. I also made extensive use of my school's online grading assignment system for nearly all assignments, which enabled me to track when a student viewed an assignment, how long they spent on it, and so forth. This tool proved invaluable in making informed decisions about leniency, and it allowed me to make statements during conferences like, "Of course the test was difficult. Your child didn't complete 9 homework assignments until 11 o'clock the night before the test." Being able to substantiate that a student was not trying made it impossible for them to place unjust blame on me. This also meant that the worst students tended to steer clear of my class. A bonus. However, this year, something extraordinary transpired. In previous years, I would usually face a wave of students who wanted to procrastinate and place the blame elsewhere. By the end of the year, they would talk negatively about me, my class sizes would decrease for the following year, and then I would receive high praise from those same students, inducing everyone to sign up, creating a cyclical pattern. But this time, not only did I receive a significant influx of challenging students, but these were accompanied by parents who relished causing trouble. I had already heard rumors about some of these parents. Other teachers were eager to hear about our interactions, as these parents were exceedingly entitled. They would name-drop lawyers if they did not get their way, attempt to pressure teachers into awarding their children extra credit, and generally refuse to acknowledge any wrongdoing on their child's part. These were the parents who would be called in because their child was caught cheating and would subsequently accuse the teacher of making the class too difficult, effectively justifying their child's need to cheat. Now, regarding the troublesome group, it consisted of about 7 senior boys who adjusted their schedules to be in the same class together. Other teachers couldn't believe I had them all in one period, but I dismissed their concerns. Each week, the staff lounge buzzed with curiosity about how I managed their antics, but largely, I had curbed most of their nonsense from day one. Despite their constant fooling around, I got along quite well with them because they had perfected the art of appearing busy without distracting my other students. Then came the first group project. The size of my class was just right for 7 groups of 4 to form. This group of misfits created 2 groups of 4 by pulling in a student who had been absent on the first day of the project. These 2 groups failed spectacularly on this assignment for multiple reasons, the main ones being that A, they had goofed off during class time, and B, delayed a 2-week assignment until the weekend before it was due, resulting in minimal effort from everyone involved. I distributed the subpar grades and was immediately pulled into parent conferences with several of them, one at a time, of course. Each meeting proceeded in a similar manner. My child did all the work, so they shouldn't receive a poor grade. Or, my child did not understand the assignment, to which I handed over my highly detailed rubric, a checklist for grading to avoid accusations of bias. These meetings generally unfolded as follows: entitled parent, my child did all the work, and I don't believe it's fair that their grade suffers. Me, here is the work your student submitted. Hands it over, and here is the rubric that I printed and emailed to your student on the day the project commenced. Hands it over. As you can see, I have detailed the grading for clarity. I am happy to discuss the grade your child earned. Entitled parent reads through the evidence, looks at child, where are the missing components. Student, my group members were responsible for that. Me, I cannot grade what I never received, so I cannot justifiably increase your child's grade. Sorry. Fortunately for all my students, I designed assignments to carry more weight throughout the semester, with the idea that those who stumbled early on could redeem themselves with hard work later. I incorporated extra credit gradually throughout the semester, leading to disgruntled parents, but pleased to learn their entitled offspring could still achieve an A in my class. The outcome of these meetings was clear. It wasn't my fault, remember. I had all this documentation showing I had tried to engage everyone, so it must have been the fault of the other students. Consequently, these parents decided that their perfect angels could no longer collaborate with their previous group members. Much like a disease, this failure of friendship spread throughout the class. Ingeniously, I required my students to create a group contract for every project that would specify who was responsible for what and when it was due. Why was this significant? Because the contract provided me with essential documentation to enable me to dismiss a poor group member without facing parental backlash. Thus, the complications began to unfold. These seniors started bouncing from group to group like chaotic ping-pong balls, causing disruption. Since I allowed students to select their groups, these seniors desperately merged with anyone willing to accept them. Given the size of my class, each group had at least one coddled child to manage, and these children eventually rotated until every student had collaborated with one of these seniors at some point. Soon, I began receiving constant complaints from other parents concerning these boys. Their child desired a good grade, which often resulted in them doing all the work while the seniors slacked off. This feedback typically came after the fact, at which point I would bring up, "I would love to remove that leech from your child's grade, but you need to utilize the contract." Students were hesitant to speak out due to fear of retaliation from the seniors, but I was equally hesitant to act, as I would be accused of harassment. The contract could provide me with the necessary leverage to demonstrate that these kids were not pulling their weight, as the seniors had manipulated their parents for years. I had my class utilize Google Docs, as the changes were time-stamped. I had instances where students produced work on the morning of a parent meeting in a failed attempt to deceive me. However, that time-stamp was invaluable. Fortunately, my class remained balanced. A poor group mate could complicate matters, but not make them impossible, and parents were reassured that I had a solution for their child, though disappointed that their child did not take advantage of it. Each time I announced an impending group project, some of these seniors attempted to cozy up to other students to ensure they secured a spot. They were practically buying lunch for other kids, bringing them gifts, and so forth. Remarkably, the day before a group project commenced, all the seniors began sitting at different tables so that they could pull the "I'm already here, let's be in a group" tactic, which worked most of the time. The strain on class morale was palpable, but I bided my time. The other students pursued extra credit opportunities relentlessly to cushion their grades, and parental complaints were effectively addressed because I continued to offer every chance for success. My principal had a copy of my syllabus on hand, allowing him to reference the student policies that parents had signed off on. It was not uncommon for him to hear, "I didn't read that document, so it doesn't matter," to which he would remind them that the clause above the signature line stated, "My signature indicates that I have read this document thoroughly and agree to abide by all the rules," or something similar, serving as a lesson to both the parent and student about the importance of reading the fine print before signing. If you ever become a teacher, seek out an exceptional boss like this and stay by their side. The setup so, here I am with 7 listless seniors, among whom I will designate the worst offenders as Larry, Curly, and Mo. The repercussions affect all of them, but these 3 are the ones whose parents have a penchant for creating trouble. Each time they manage to coerce a teacher into submission, I envision them in a smoking room with cigars and cognac, chuckling over their latest victory over a mere educator. I know that anything I do will be meticulously scrutinized once their grades begin to decline, and I must be able to dismiss it, as I have more significant concerns and refuse to be the focal point of their celebratory gloating. However, a special note concerning Larry now that he has turned 18, his parents are perpetually traveling and are impossible to contact. Larry has simply transformed into an arrogant individual, as his parents no longer seem to care about his actions. I closely monitor their grades in my class and others. Although this may sound dubious, I routinely do this with students struggling academically to discern whether the problem lies within my class or across their other subjects. Students have been known to fake their grades using browser inspect tools, and I grew tired of hearing, "But they have A's in their other classes," as it cast me in a negative light. Anyway, after conducting my check, I spoke with the other teachers. Unsurprisingly, it was easy to find out that these boys consistently produced minimal work in other classes, and I also learned that Larry had been manipulating other students into completing tasks for him and sharing them with his friends. Various educators had been coerced into lowering test percentages in their classes, and what a coincidence, Larry and his crew were enrolled in those courses. Despite underperforming on these tests, their homework and project grades provided a comfortable cushion, keeping their averages around low beta-Ks. I was unable to provide concrete proof of this. They were using Snapchat. But when I raised the issue with their teachers, they preferred not to confront the situation and contend with the parents. Now they were gaming other classes for minimal effort. However, their only strategy in my class was to keep rotating through groups, leeching off of their peers' hard work to maintain C-Ks and beta-Ks. Meanwhile, the other students were too apprehensive to utilize the group contract to have them removed. Remember how I mentioned that I gradually increase the weight of my assignments to motivate students and provide them opportunities for redemption? Me random day in class. Hey everyone, I was reviewing our schedule and realized that your final project before finals may unnecessarily stress you out. Would anyone mind if I canceled it? My class exhausted from group assignments. Nope, go ahead, best teacher ever. Me okay, just so you know, I will postpone our next project by a couple of weeks and extend the deadline by 1 week. Additionally, because I have canceled the previous project, this upcoming assignment will now count for approximately 20% of your final grade, so give it your best effort. Messing this up could drastically affect your grades. My class, whatever JPG in one fell swoop, I artificially inflated this assignment's weight and restructured its timing. I then sent out an email to parents and students notifying them of the changes to the syllabus and the assignment. I witnessed no responses other than expressions of gratitude for alleviating their end-of-semester stress, etc. The primary reason for this adjustment was that another teacher, who was a particularly unpleasant individual, had assigned a significant project during that same week, and I envisioned it would overwhelm my students right before finals. A win-win for me, indeed. Now, what was my purpose in making this change? Maniacal after MP4. The Friday before the project kicked off, I announced at the start of class, "I am introducing the project now so that you can form groups today, and we can begin first thing on Monday without delay, as this project is crucial." This declaration elicited a chorus of mischievous grins. Why? It fell on senior ditch day. Our school did not endorse a ditch day, thus students endeavored to keep it under wraps, but I had learned of it a month ahead of time. All 7 of these students were absent, meaning I had just freed the entire class from these burdensome deadweights. Instantaneously, groups formed, and even better, a few students transferred out of my class at the semester mark, which meant these wayward seniors would have to collaborate on this final group project in 2 groups. I stressed to everyone the need to attend class as soon as possible so they could dive into the work immediately after attendance was taken. Initially, I aimed to ignite an intense motivation in all 7 of these students, encouraging them to invest effort after neglecting their responsibilities the entire year. Most of them had grades teetering around the low C range, with one teetering in the low B range. Additionally, as a bonus for all my students, I incorporated an extra credit component into this project, so they could recover from their earlier semester struggles while also giving these seniors a shot at performing well, should they choose to make an effort. This was not meant to be a vendetta, but rather an opportunity to impart one final lesson in accountability. Before the end of that day, I dispatched a notification to parents and students informing them that the project had commenced and that any absent students needed to reach out to their classmates to arrange their groups before Monday morning. This would prove crucial, as you will see. I am sure you can surmise what occurred next. Immediate fallout. The following Monday, the seniors strolled in just moments before the bell, only to find that there were now only 2 tables available. Undeterred, they took their seats. Me, after taking attendance all right, Everyone has a copy of the rubric, so please get started. Rest of class immediately pulls out rubric seniors glancing around in a panic. It quickly dawned on the seniors that I had outsmarted them, leading to a flurry of arguing. First, Larry, Curly, and Mo decided that they belonged with whichever table they resided at and attempted to shift their chairs to join different groups. I caught this immediately and informed them that their group sizes had already reached capacity, 4 people per group. The other 4 seniors found themselves entangled in disputes as they realized none of them was genuinely willing to contribute. Larry, who mistakenly believes he deserves special treatment, attempts to charm me and his group into allowing a 5th member. Seeing some of the other students falter under pressure, I know Larry is influencing them to advocate on his behalf. I designed this project specifically for 4 participants, each with distinct roles, but I offered a separate option. I'll allow you to join, but given that there will now be 5 students, I expect double the work from you. In other words, they would be required to complete the project twice. Larry attempts to debate, but I highlight the predetermined roles, consistently pointing out that if 4 individuals could complete it once, having an additional member should expedite efforts to accomplish it twice. While this may seem unkind on my part, I have successfully intimidated the other students into rejecting the idea and even encouraged them to vote. Unsurprisingly, Larry is the only one who believes this is a good proposal, and once the other students sense my offer's implications, they physically eliminate the other seniors from their consideration. You will be pleased to know that the duration of the period for my seniors involved contentious arguing over who would choose to work with whom. They ultimately formed 3 groups, and I acknowledged their setup, ensured they had the rubric, and subsequently wished them luck. Being the astute educator that I am, I promptly emailed Curly's parents and Mo's mother to inform them that they had chosen to collaborate. Mo's mother often arrived to confront me, but she quickly learned I wouldn't tolerate her antics. During a previous meeting, she even confronted Mo, asserting, "I am tired of fighting these battles with your teachers, and I'm starting to believe that you are the problem," although I suspected this was merely for appearances. Curly's parents responded promptly and stated they would ensure Curly created a group contract. You see, Curly had presented himself as the ultimate student and promised he would complete the work and dismiss his classmates. Mo's mother immediately requested a meeting with me. Per school policy, I am not obligated to respond to an email within 48 hours. I waited 47 hours before replying with a non-committal. "I would be delighted to meet. When are you available?" and awaited their response. I subsequently waited another 48 hours to suggest a time for the following week that would be convenient for me. Some of the parents of the other seniors began to email me angrily, demanding to know why their children had been permitted to team up with the bad kids again. I then clarified that I hadn't anticipated that all of them would be absent. Immediately, some of my seniors faced repercussions at home for ditching, leading their parents to instruct me, "Just assist them in passing," acknowledging the necessity of this class for their graduation. On the other hand, Mo's mother entered the meeting ready for a confrontation. She commenced by demanding that I transfer Mo to a different group. I declined, explaining that the project had been ongoing for a week and it would be unjust to alter their placements at this juncture. She insisted that I assign him to another group. All the groups had reached max capacity, and students had completed the bulk of the work. She demanded that I allow him to work independently with an extension. I willingly offered him an extension and slid a copy of the rubric across the table. He turned pale upon realizing that he had no plan to do any work. In fact, I knew that his group hadn't even started. I held a copy of their group contract, which had been hastily written in pencil with no due dates added. He began pleading with his mother that he preferred to work with his friends and was frustrated about being in this predicament. As I contemplated the situation, she accused me of intentionally waiting until that day to sabotage the seniors. After all, it was a school-sanctioned event, and she branded me a tyrant who wouldn't allow them their tradition. Wrong. I reveled in all my preparation as I systematically shut down nonsense like this. All 7 seniors had gathered at Mo's house for ditch day and led her to believe the principal had provided them with the day off. Even better, they called in pretending to be their own parents to classify it as an excused absence. He was immediately caught out, and his mother exploded in anger toward him. You see, while she could press me on the issue, I now possessed evidence proving he had impersonated his own father, which was a punishable offense. I cleverly explained to her that I had no idea the day in question was Senior Ditch Day. I just thought seniors deserved their own traditions and made sure to give her son a free extension due to that consideration, all very smoothly delivered. She bought it. Furthermore, I could prove that I had emailed him, and her, well in advance, providing ample notice before Monday morning that they needed to arrange group memberships before the deadline. Once I learned of Ditch Day, I attempted to provide her precious child a heads-up, although I couldn't explain why he failed to take action. She instructed him to check his email. My message lay there, unopened, and I had emerged victorious. She thanked me and took him home. Class morale was soaring, except for among the seniors. 1 week before the project's due date, neither group had truly begun working, and the averages in my class were on the verge of sinking fast. The project due date. It comes as no surprise that my enterprising seniors submitted what was undoubtedly the worst work I had ever received. One group found themselves embroiled in a text argument during the weekend prior to the deadline, resulting in one student being forced to complete everything. Mo and Curly found themselves in this group. The second group, headed by Larry, also handed in a poorly executed project. I purposefully graded these two projects first because I anticipated the fallout would be significant. Each of the seniors suffered a drop of at least 1 letter grade, with some plummeting even further. This occurred just 4 weeks before graduation. Larry appeared to take his F- in stride. They scored approximately 10%, so I suspected he was scheming something. Curly's parents demanded a meeting, as did Mo's mother. Curly's parents were deeply upset about the poor grade and sought explanations. However, they were unaware that I had already met with the student who had carried the weight of the entire project, albeit poorly, along with his parents. I informed Curly's parents that I had witnessed the text exchanges among the seniors that devolved into, "You do it." Curly, however, refused to allow his parents access to his phone to corroborate this information. I then showcased Curly's project and handed over the rubric. His parents were incensed. They realized that Curly had been blaming others for his shortcomings for years, and that they had, to their detriment, accepted his narratives. Until this moment. The father pointedly asked, "Which part are you responsible for?" This question caused Curly to break down in tears. I then presented a spreadsheet detailing all the group project scores from the year, without including student data, and highlighted Curly's scores, which were among the lowest. This exercise aimed to demonstrate quantitatively that their son simply failed to complete his work. Curly was utterly devastated by this revelation. His parents expelled him from the conference, having grown intolerant of his excuses, and they sought my advice on how to salvage the situation. I willingly offered to provide one-on-one tutoring and assured them that he still had the opportunity to pass if he completed his homework and achieved a B on the next exam. They accepted this, we shook hands, and they departed. Curly's story largely concludes here. He never attended any sessions for tutoring that I offered, prompting me to email his parents. After 3 emails went unanswered, his father finally replied, indicating, "His mother and I have determined he needs to learn to take responsibility for himself, so we are leaving him to manage things on his own. Thank you for your efforts." Curly proceeded to drift through the remainder of the semester doing little to no work. Since he became grounded at home, he occupied his time watching YouTube videos on his phone during class. The ripple effect was delightful, as Curly began mimicking this behavior in all his classes. I spoke with his teachers, and they confirmed he had entirely disengaged from classroom participation, receiving the same lackluster replies I had. As Curly's academic failures escalated, he eventually graduated, but when he did, his parents informed him they would no longer cover his college expenses, determined that it was now time for him to get a job. Mo's mother exploded in anger and demanded explanations. Regrettably for her, Mo was in the same group as Curly, leading her to receive identical information from me. Oddly enough, once she exhausted every avenue and effort to deflect blame onto me, she ultimately confessed that she was aware of Mo's involvement in bullying Curly and that he should feel ashamed of himself. She made a transparent attempt to manipulate me, but ultimately outed herself once I displayed my knowledge. It was exasperating, but I offered to assist with tutoring him one-on-one, which pleased her. Long-term consequences, Mo's mother began inundating me with emails every few days. Is my son completing his work? Did he seek help with his assignments? The inquiries were relentless, but she had learned not to confront me aggressively. Larry, meanwhile, appeared oddly cheerful, yet was still neglecting his assignments. I discovered that Larry was allegedly attending a college with minimal GPA requirements. He claimed that an F in my class wouldn't impact his enrollment, so I ensured he was a distraction to no one. Mo showed up only sporadically, but curiously, Larry would drop by just to say hi whenever Mo was receiving help. I could not comprehend his motives but suspected he had ulterior plans, so I arranged for someone else to be present during our tutoring sessions. Meanwhile, Mo's mother continued to send frequent inquiries. I started waiting 48 hours between my email replies, a perk I could afford, and she began showing up unannounced to check on me or him. Her behavior struck me as increasingly paranoid, leading me to suspect something was amiss. It was, in fact, Larry's influence. Larry, being friends with Mo, was visiting her home and concocting imaginary tales to convince her that I had been emotionally abusing Mo when peers were not around, claims that I was demeaning him after school, and then persuading her, "You could even have the school review the camera footage to verify my presence." This whole ordeal prompted her to demand answers from the administration. But Mr. Fighter Jet is too clever for that. Administrators sought clarification on my interactions with Mo, leading to a meeting involving my principal, Mo, and his mother. She began by insisting that Mo was struggling, facing potential failure to graduate, and leveling allegations against me for targeting her son for emotional abuse, demanding a grade increase. It was then that I asserted myself. Mo, being academically lazy, along with his mother, failed to realize that I had a mentor teacher working with me, someone fresh to the field who needed contact hours, and was still present in my classroom during the sessions with Mo. Mo believed her to be another student and had no records of her presence. My principal had already gathered accounts from her regarding my interactions with Mo, and Mo himself was unable to articulate any solid details. This turned her against any advocacy she might have envisioned. As a result of this meeting, the administration promptly cautioned teachers against being alone in a room with either student. Subsequently, after-school assistance evaporated for Mo and Larry, but my sessions continued since I always had someone else there, no matter what. From that point on, Larry's demeanor shifted, feigning concern for his grades. I theorized that he hoped to exhaust my efforts to the point where I would quit, and he could leverage the aftermath to secure a passing grade. Obviously, that plan backfired as I had students genuinely interested in their education. My days off were strategically scheduled on the days Larry worked, and he never made an effort to attend tutoring sessions regardless. As other educators grew wary of him, he lost his avenues to broker deals for raising grades. Seriously, faculty had always fallen for his rehearsed manipulation. Mo's mother made one last desperate plea, indicating that the parents of the seniors had arranged a meeting with my superior to have me terminated for providing their children poor grades, and that she would be willing to speak highly of me if we could meet beforehand. I happened to be sitting next to my principal at that moment when I received this message via an app on my cell phone, and he appeared perplexed by her claims. I responded that I would gladly attend the meeting, but added that I might be eating lunch, hoping no one would mind the odor of fish. She retorted, "No, seriously, they are threatening to sue you." Yet I played dumb as I informed her that I couldn't face any legal consequences for simply having lunch. She realized I couldn't be intimidated and encountered a bind once more. I was merely sticking to policy. The next few weeks became frantic for these seniors. One by one, they faltered, having done minimal work for years and lacking the ability to apply themselves. Other educators were emboldened by how rigorously I had held them accountable, and several managed to scrape by with a few DTCs in my class, while the rest failed miserably. I received a few last-minute requests. What can I do to improve my grade? But I could prove that none had engaged with the extra credit opportunities, meaning they had squandered their chance to redeem themselves. It is difficult for the parents to challenge you when you so clearly outline your efforts to provide extra credit, especially when you can document that their child had never even accessed the assignment online. These students began failing in their other classes as well. A few broke down in my classroom, overwhelmed with emotion. Their friendships began to fracture as they turned on one another over the chaos, a phase they would overcome during summer break. The final exam arrived, and I structured it as an online multiple-choice test. I took care to randomize the order of questions and answers so that students couldn't simply cheat off one another's papers. I had long known that they intended to sit next to one another during this test to try and copy answers, and Larry had expended substantial resources on a tutor to carry his peers along. This strategy ultimately backfired, as my distribution of questions thwarted their deceitful plans, and when Mo's mother accused me, once more, of attempting to ensnare her child with a significantly harder test, it proved simple enough to send her packing with a detailed email explanation. Larry managed to pass the exam, incrementing his grade up to a dismal D-. The outcomes. If you've made it this far, congratulations on enduring my lengthy narrative. Here are the results. From those 7 seniors, 1 did not graduate and had to transfer schools. His parents were embarrassed they had flown everyone to attend a graduation he could not partake in. 2 of the seniors lost their scholarships and could no longer enroll in their desired institutions. Their backup plan involved attending the same college together, where they became roommates. This included Mo. I do have some subsequent stories, as I continue to work at this institution and occasionally hear updates from students who graduated. Larry's college expressed dissatisfaction with his final GPA. I'm uncertain what he aimed to achieve, but it ultimately failed. The college expelled him before he could even begin his studies, and I discovered he had crafted an extensive network of lies extending to his parents. He even traveled to Europe that summer, seeking to surprise them by returning home instead of going to school. Apparently, they promptly dismissed him because they had decided to sell their house for a condo elsewhere. Their constant travels had prompted them to prefer a smaller living space. The last update I received indicated he fabricated a story claiming he joined the military only to be discharged due to an alleged illness. I highlight alleged, because I heard this from 3 different sources, each claiming he suffered from a different disease. Curly's parents changed their minds and opted to finance Curly's university education after all. In a twist of fate, Curly was dismissed halfway through the academic year, caught on multiple occasions for underage drinking, and was subsequently discarded after living at home for a year while refusing to seek employment. The last rumor I heard indicated he was employed at a vape shop. Mo managed to enroll in school and attempted to utilize his intellect to outsource his work to others. His mother is wealthy. When that tactic failed, he resorted to faking his grades to secure his mother's continued financial support. Eventually, the school expelled him as well, and he returned home. According to what his mother told a friend, which I learned while attending a school event, he supposedly decided entrepreneurship was his true calling and bought a drone to film weddings. The last update I received suggested he had transitioned to working as a distributor for his drug dealer while also dabbling in the sale of acid. His mother continues to believe he is working weddings. One senior attended college with his friends and promptly realized he needed to make significant life changes. He broke ties with his friends, and last I heard, he graduated with honors in a financially viable field. He even emailed me once to express gratitude for the challenges I posed during high school as they effectively prepared him for college, so that was a pleasant surprise. That is all the end. Thank you for reading, and if you have ever had a teacher who made a difference in your life, please send them an email. We truly enjoy hearing from our students. Edit 1. Teacher name is that you. I will obviously never respond to these, but it seems there are some teachers out there like me, apparently. 2. I wish I had a teacher like you. Yes, I feel the same. My advice to novice educators is to be the teacher you needed when you were young, and always keep emergency snacks to share with students who may not have food. 3. You're terrible and should quit teaching. Oh no, my feelings are hurt. Internet users who dislike me, your opinion is irrelevant. You are part of the issue. Everything I did aimed to protect the other 20 students in that class who genuinely wanted to work hard and learn. while the seniors were given every opportunity to rectify their situations. I spent 9 months helping students whose grades had plummeted due to these individuals, while simultaneously facing consistent pleas from parents not to let their children collaborate with these boys. I seized my chance and took action. 4. You should share more stories. Unfortunately, I don't possess that many teaching stories that would fit this format. I am generally regarded as the approachable, easygoing teacher at my school, the one whom you simply do not mess with, though I am frequently the target of pranks. Edit 2. I appreciate the supportive comments, but a small, very hostile minority remains convinced I am an awful person based on how I addressed a group of seniors. To reiterate, it is impossible to assess my entire career based on my efforts to hold a small group of students accountable for contributing to an exceedingly negative classroom environment. Edit 3.1. Why so many projects? My school adopted a problem-based learning curriculum. I am mandated to conduct a major project for each unit, and I have 6 units per year. 2. You are a horrible person. This subreddit is dedicated to stories of revenge. I have a plethora of success tales, but this isn't the appropriate platform. Stop walking into a horror movie and complaining that it lacks romance. I love my students deeply. Here is my final note. Many of you are expressing gratitude, but you should direct that thanks to a teacher who positively influenced your life. Treat them to coffee instead of getting Reddit accolades, or write them a brief note of appreciation. If you are still intent on hating my existence, seek out that special teacher in your life and express your gratitude for not being a fighter jet. Hopefully, they will never need someone like me.